Hello? Oh, cool. Hello. So welcome to Navigating Neurodiversity, what you need to know about the games industry. I am Georgie. I am the Influencer Executive for Neon Hive, and I have founded the Neurodivergent Game Dev Collective. Sorry if I am a bit croaky, I'm still sick. So this is Dom and Cameron, who I will let introduce themselves.
Yeah, so I'm Cameron Keywood. I'm a studio director at DragonCog Interactive, which just been going now for about 8 months, and I had just finished uni, so it's been a journey this first year so far.
That one doesn't work, so. Hi everyone, name's Dom Shaw. I'm the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion Coordinator at Ukie, which is the UK trade body for video games. So basically, the middle person between government and industry, making sure government does what they need to do, but also making sure industry follows what government wants. So with my work, it's all about inclusion and making the industry more accessible. And being a hot pot of neurodiversity myself, I have a bit of a bias around neurodiversity. Being autistic, dyslexic, with traces of ADHD and OCD. So very much live and breathe it and want to make sure people have an inclusive and great time.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Okay, so before we start on the questions, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who we are, which I did not write any notes, so I'm going to read off this board. So the Neurodivergent Game Dev Collective is a group of neurodivergent game developers that have come together to support and empower each other within the games industry. So within the NGDC, we share resources, opportunities, and advice to support each other and connect. The NGDC's mission is to make sure that no one is on their own and all neurodivergent devs can be treated fairly and supported in the games industry. So I'm going to leave this on the screen just so you know who we are. Just if you didn't know. Cool. So starting on my questions, do you disclose that you're neurodivergent in a job interview, and why? Dom, you have the microphone, so if you want to go first.
So what I say around this question is it always depends on both your research of the company and also your comfortability in those first 10 minutes. For example, if you don't see any supportive statements or content from a company around neurodiversity, I would be a bit concerned about sharing it up front. Obviously, some companies are beginning their journeys and some companies are in the middle and don't really want to shout out until they're fully confident, which is an understandable trait. But at the same time, having been through looking for many, many jobs myself and knowing that if you share the information too fast, it can be a bit negative on you. I always say, do that research first. If you feel confident, you can always email the employer and be like, before you have an interview or anything of a similar kind, you can be like, hi there, just want to inform that I have this. So for example, it could be ADHD. I lose my focus quite a bit. So would it be possible to get this reasonable adjustment in the interview process? And obviously, if you felt comfortable going and saying that up front and you got a inclusive response back saying, oh yes, we'll make sure this is in place, we'll make sure you've got this, then obviously that's a good move. But if you don't get a favorable result, obviously it gives you more anxiety. So it's why I always say it's better to say later, because you've always got that card to yourself. And when you feel that you can trust and rely on the employer to support you, you can then start to be more open. But with the current way of industries, not just games, but the wider sector, I feel it is more reasonable to just take steps unsecuring yourself, because there are too many negative stories and we want to bring more positive and make people feel more included and inside the jobs themselves. So I would say wait until you feel comfortable, and if you don't feel comfortable, that's a big sign. And if you do feel comfortable and it's helpful, in terms of the employer coming to you, then you've got it right in, what's the golf term? I don't know, one bird shot or something. I don't know.
I know nothing about golf.
So for non-industry jobs, I didn't, because I feel like they weren't as supportive as like the industry is. So, but for games industry, like any jobs I used to apply for before starting a studio, I would have like said, you know, I've got autism, like Asperger's, so. But well, pretty much what Dom said covered most of what I was going to say, so there's not too much more I can say.
Cool. So. Yeah, absolutely. I always find if I disclose my neurodivergency and then they have a negative response, that's not going to be somewhere I want to work anywhere. Like, I've thrived so much more in my current role than any other job because my employer has been understanding, listened to me, made accommodations for me, and this is the first time I think I've actually stayed in a job for longer than like 8 months. Because I'm actually looked after, so it's worth, if you have the privilege of picking and choosing, I guess, and you know, it's very much worth looking out for that employer that's going to look out for you. So some of these questions have been brought to us by some of the people in our collective. So one of our members has asked, is it possible for an autistic person to achieve some level of success in the games industry, like in art, programming, design, etc.? And before I start the question, yes, because we are sat here. We are all sat here, and yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, from both of your experiences, how, like, yes, it is possible, and we know it's possible, but, you know, how has it been possible for you, I guess?
I think like some of the traits of autistic people, so like hyperfocus and other factors like that are really good for like the games industry. Like people with special interests, like people are coding and then they'll be away like that. So yeah, I can't see any reason why anybody can try and do it from a neurodivergent background, definitely.
I definitely would absolutely agree. Like, when you have that passion and that interest in video games, even if you have a passion in an element of games that you think, is there a job in this? There is. Even if a company doesn't know it yet, there is. Because my own job currently, there was no one around inclusion and diversity at Ukie before I came and knocking and was like, so, managing this project for 6 months called Raise the Game? Yeah, you need me full time for this. And then so it happened. And I think that's the beauty of everyone in this room. I mean, it's a massive hall, so it still applies. But I think, obviously, everyone in the audience, if you're looking for a role, you know, everyone has this magic inside them. And I think the most common thing is, not to go too like deep, but like society, there's a lot of negatives in society. And when you've got extra things on top of what's considered average, it can kind of weigh you down further. So as long as you treasure those special interests, those passions, what makes you happy, but also, as Georgie said, make sure you find support networks and channels that are really going to uplift you and empower you, then the opportunities will grow, they will develop, and then you will eventually create your own opportunities. Heck, even if you don't find opportunities quick, you'll eventually make your own opportunities. And I think that's what's so special around people who are neurodiverse, because maybe it's a common trait, or maybe it's just we get tired of people saying no all the time, and we're like, yes, I will make my own company, or I will make my own job. So I definitely think the two key important things to success is just having a support network. And that doesn't mean like hundreds of people. It could be your mum, close friends, anyone who's really there to support you, both personally, but also professionally. Because I can see some people in this audience who I know, some people who are treasured by others, and some people who are finding that journey themselves. So, you know, there's always someone special. There's always something special in you. You just got to grow some of that resilience, keep smiling, keep looking, And don't forget to lean into that support because they will help you bloom into the greatness that you're all determined to be, regardless if you don't know it yet.
We are valuable assets, and I think a lot of people don't realize how valuable a neurodivergent person can be on their team. When I'm at work, there's stuff that I do that none of my colleagues can do as fast as I can because I absolutely love a good spreadsheet. And I know that that's really stereotypically autistic of me, but I absolutely love spreadsheets, and no one in my work can do spreadsheets as fast as I can. So we are valuable. I have found my love for spreadsheets, and I know that I am now an invaluable part of our team. I'm going to leave that. Cameron, this question's for you. So you've started your own game studio out of university. Did you run into any difficulties with this due to being neurodivergent? And do you have any advice for others who might want to start up their own studio?
The networking, really, because I'm quite introverted. This is the first time I've been up on stage, being interviewed or doing a panel, so this is quite nerve-wracking. But yes, the networking definitely, because you have to put yourself out there and meet with people. But as far as starting the studio, I found it easier than because I looked for an industry job for a couple of months after graduating, because I graduated from uni down in Wales, where I'm from, as people could probably tell. But yeah, I graduated, and no jobs out there, and you paid 30 grand and you can't even get an interview. So I thought, I'll just start my own studio. Half joking at the time I was, but just after Christmas then I looked into it and just started now and just going from there. Advice I would give, if it's for neurodivergent people, definitely is to join Limit Break when the program comes around. It's a great program. I got a talk tomorrow, my mentor over Bassage, I think tomorrow, about Limit Break. So if you're here, try and catch it if you can. But yeah, as far as general advice, it's different for everybody. Really, I couldn't really give general, but for neurodivergent people, definitely look into Limit Break when it comes around. I think it's May next year. Yeah,
there's a lot of programs within the industry now for marginalized people, especially Limit Break, which is a mentorship, 6-month mentorship with someone within the games industry for marginalized people of all kinds. I've done Limit Break for the last 2 years, and it's just been so, you get so much valuable information from your mentor, and I definitely would recommend that to anyone that's really, really interested in a games career.
I should say as well, it's not just for neurodivergent, but for underrepresented minorities and every other class like that.
Yeah,
so
gender diverse.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
And I'm going to quickly go on to the networking of it all. Obviously, we all have probably had our struggles with networking. It's not something I think I've ever been particularly comfortable with. But for neurodivergent people in the audience who maybe are struggling with coming up to devs, speaking to devs, really, really getting that networking in, what advice can you give them, to overcome that? It's a big fear, I think, for me especially.
Is that directly to me or?
Just anyone.
Anyone, okay, cool. So, I mean, on that networking question, just free hit combo, what Georgie and Cam said, Limit Break is a fantastic program for anyone who struggles with networking. It's a first great step because you'll not only meet someone in industry, but you'll also have some events and opportunities to network with others, both online and in person. So finding programs like that, and there are a few others, and it depends on the different diversity. So for example, there's the Women in Games Careers Expo, which is a totally online event, but they have a kind of networking app on it, and they have online career booths, which again, you get to meet people in a much more relaxed environment. But at the same time, obviously, when you come to in person, it can be really nerve-wracking. I mean, when I started to try to network, which was horribly to say now because I'm aging myself here, nearly 10 years ago, and I'm not even 30 yet, but it's like I remember I went to an event for a game hub, and I was so awkward. I was by the food table, just like, oh, don't know who to talk to, don't know who's there. Oh. And the irony is that someone I'm a close friend with now, actually, before we like made that step to be close industry friends, she was like, I remember when I first saw you, you were a bit odd by the table, and I was a bit like, I wasn't odd, I was just very anxious and stressed. And it was but it was also good to hear that, because it is interesting to see how people perceive you, but they don't see the full story. So when it comes to networking, always make sure that you don't put your full self in it straight away, because you will feel those nerves, you will shake, you will feel anxious, but actually by even just being at an event, you've made a really fantastic first step. And even if you only talk to one person that first event, that's better than not going. And then what you can do progressively is go to more events, and you'll start going, oh, I remember that face. I remember that person. Oh, I remember this topic they talked about. And those familiarities will bring you greater connections and thus help you connect to others. And also, you'll start revealing yourself and how either mad or crazy you are, at least in my case. So people started to go, oh, you're Dom, even if I didn't know them. And I'm like, hi. And it's like, ah.
I don't know how to react when people do that to me. They're like, you're Georgie. And I'm like, yes, I am. How do you know me? And I don't think I've, to this day, I don't think I've grasped networking, and I don't think I ever will. But I think maybe that's just an autistic thing, and that's fine. But it's strange. It's
think
odd.
of it as like either the Sim, like if anyone's played The Sims, or a game with a reputation system. It's basically that. So the closest one I can think with a reputation system is really old, but GTA San Andreas. You know, when you did those missions with the gang, certain gangs started to hate you more, certain gangs started to like you more. So when you saw them, they were like, ah, it's you. So I think networking is literally that. You can take it, you can perceive it in different ways, because that's why like some people wanted to perceive it as Sims. So, you know, like when someone sees you, instead of seeing their face light up, you can just imagine a giant smiley face above their head going, oh, it's that person. I can't wait to talk to them.
Does that happen to you?
Yes.
Like, I feel like my plumb bob permanently is yellow. Like, I'm always tired. Like, my plumb bob is never on green.
I find the tiredness after about 4 hours.
Do you feel like you need to have like a really good lie down after networking? Like when I talk to people, I'm like, I need a break. Like I think this is why online networking is really good, because I can network, and then as soon as I'm tired, I'm done, I'm overwhelmed, I've had enough, I can just log off. I'm out of that situation, I'm comfortable in my own home, I can go to bed, I can do what I want.
Absolutely. I think always remember, like if you do get that knackered feeling from networking, it's okay to be completely antisocial the next day. Like, I'm all smiley today, but if any of you message me tomorrow, I'll probably be like, grr, what do you want?
So I should message you at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning.
What about you? Any more tips on your journey from networking?
Sometimes it just takes approaching, like, you might see someone, you know, you're like, oh, that's that dev that made that game, but they're just as passionate about games as you're going to be, so if they're at that event, they're there to meet people as well, so sometimes just taking the step, which, like, I did with, like, joining, like, Limit Break, and, like, 6 months ago, I wouldn't have thought I'd be here. I thought I'd be home watching the live stream or something, but, yeah.
Cool. So what are the most successful ways that you've seen companies support their neurodivergent employees?
I did some research. Give me a second.
Well, I would hope you'd say yourself to begin with.
No, not that advanced. Right. Rockstar offer autism awareness training for its employees. Many studios now offer like flexible work, you know, work from home, 4-day work weeks. And Activision Blizzard has got sensory-friendly like rooms, so if somebody's feeling overwhelmed, they can just go in there and not calm down, but try and get like back to normal levels. So yeah, they were the ones I had a quick look at, and there's a few other ones like.
I feel like remote working is just so integral to this industry now. I feel like I wouldn't be in this industry if we didn't have remote working. Like I feel like that is the number one thing that an employer can do to support a neurodivergent employee is offered remote working. And I think it shouldn't be it shouldn't be like do you know what the words? What is the word?
Hybrid, is it?
No, it's gone from my head. But like, it shouldn't be a debate. There we go. Found it. Hold your applause. It shouldn't be a debate. It should be something that studios offer. I know that some studios, maybe if they're small studios, it's not necessarily something that they can work for. But I think, especially with big studios, a lot of studios have laid off a lot of their employees because they are forcing everyone back into the office. And think about how much neurodivergent talent you're losing by doing that. So much. And not just neurodivergent people, everyone deserves that. But especially neurodivergent talent, you're going to lose so much of it. So, Dom, I have a little question for you. So you've overcome a lot of adversity in your career. So how have you managed with this, and how can others do the same?
Well, it's a perfectly suited question that kind of mixes in with what you just said then about remote working. Because I think the biggest challenge I found in my career, like many of you will have it differently, and I hope you will have it differently. So I'm very open about my career journey. So, I worked for a company who are still doing game events, who basically had me do 5 months full-time work, unpaid, remote work. But the difference was, because I wasn't being appreciated or not being paid, that remote work became burnout. And when they finally did pay me, they paid me half the amount I should have got. And then when they made me redundant, instead of teaching me what garden leave is, they were just like, I was like, could I get a reference if I do this extra month of work in this garden leave? And they were like, sure, even though it was by their legal responsibility to tell me. While I had another games company who do QA. And obviously, if you want the certain names, I can tell you off the mic. So do come after me afterwards.
I'm not saying anything.
Because I won't do too much sassiness on stage, but I'm more than open to share names because I've had the bullets, and a bit like 50 Cent, I've got the bullet wounds.
No, you need to protect each other in this industry, and I think you can be slightly cynical about something. And I understand, everyone's not going to have the same experience, but we need to protect each other in this industry, and I think that is extremely important. I've had people, tell me red flags about certain jobs, and I'm like, okay, thank you for telling me, because I would have hated to get a job there and then just had such an awful time, been treated horribly. I would rather someone try and look out for me and say, hey, here's a red flag. Just gonna slide it away.
Exactly. And it should always be taken, like if you're being told it, always take it with a grain of salt, because they may have changed, they may have developed, but sometimes they don't. But with those 2 really bad experiences, I learned probably my first tip in terms of overcoming adversity is know your rights as a person and as an employee. Because if you know it, the employer can't take advantage of you. And it's quite a serious one, but it's there. There are rules in place in employment to empower the employer and not the employee. But that's changing now. Because of lockdown, we are seeing that shift of dynamic where it needs to be a two-way street. So the power to you as a potential worker / person is becoming more so, but also going to the remote working aspect. If you can remote work, if it feels comfortable and you can make that life-work balance at home, that can truly help you overcome a lot of adversity. And it sounds like a really simple thing, but having your own space, being able to tell yourself, I need to turn off for a bit, or I need to have a nap because these people will be pissing me off too much, is really, really powerful to your working dynamic. And it makes you not only more productive, but fail yourself a bit more. That's not to say working in the office, if you want to work in the office, you shouldn't, because you can. I think the difference is when a company enforces the office, that's a bit of a red flag to me, because there should always be a choice. And kind of thinking about some companies of example that do it really well. So there's a company called Lovewish, who are an indie company run by a fantastic game director called Nina. And she empowers an all-digital workplace. So she makes sure that her employees have time to network with each other, chat, but also effectively work online. And thus, they make the dynamic of being able to talk and have water cooler conversations with each other. And just in case people are like, what are water cooler conversations? It's basically the lifeblood of socializing with others, basically. Something you don't learn until you get into a job where you're like, what is this? And then when you talk to everyone else who's neurotypical, they're like, oh, you just get it. You just have to be there. You have to be in the office. And it's like, only if you force me to, we can have these chats online, which is why, like, Lovewish, I'd recommend as a company to look towards for best practice around empowering that environment. But then equally, I'm going to give 3 examples. So Lovewish is the example of what you can do regardless, because they're an indie studio with no set budget to this, and yet they've made it completely work. Then you've got a middle tier kind of company who my recommendation is always Endreams. They're a VR publisher and developer. Because they've done so good, they've been able to make several subsidiaries, and generally they are listed as a great place to work, either as a nominee or winners of such awards. And that's because the leadership team understand their employees' needs. They listen. Even if they don't have certain diversity traits, they make sure from a top-down approach, they support everyone. And that's so vital. And obviously, that's not something you can have control over, but again, going back to my previous point of do the research, have a look. If you see that support in the content and the communications you have with a company, it can really make a difference to your dynamic. And then my big company example, now, when I say this company, I'm specifically referencing their UK offices, completely and utterly. Ubisoft. So Ubisoft have recently just won the Neuro Inclusive Award. And I know why, because they have been empowering a lot of their neurodiverse employees through ERGs, greater resources. I mean, they even now have a director of neurodiverse activity. That's not his full title, he's got a different title, but the fact that they even put that support in there really shows a dedication. And again, if some of you are industry savvy, that is why I'm specifically highlighting Ubisoft UK. But all 3 of those companies show a best practice trait that can be taken on by anyone. So just a short and sweet of it is, make work from home a choice. And obviously, as an employee, you want to look for places that allow that choice. Find companies that will support and give you the reasonable adjustments you need. And obviously, companies that are always constantly learning and putting more resources in, they are the companies that can help you go over adversity. But also, just one other tip is, again, it's a lot of resilience. Like, you've just got to find ways to step back. May that be through reflection or having massive weekends where you get to play with all your Transformer figures and watch all the anime, which is often what I do.
Cool. So I've got 2 more questions, and then if we do have time, I will open it up So one of my final questions is, how can neurodivergent people protect themselves against unfair bias and the uncertainty of the industry right now? And I'm going to just go ahead and say, please join a union, because it's been a very, very unsettling time for the industry right now. If you get a job in the industry, please join a union, please protect yourself, because it doesn't matter how amazing you think your studio is, like, anything can go wrong. The most vital thing is that you protect yourself, no matter how welcoming or opening your company might be, because you have no idea what's going to happen. And I think that the last couple of months in the industry have like really shown that, and I think that's very, very important. So just a PSA, please do that. Cameron, so yeah, how can we protect ourselves in this industry against unfair bias?
Like I think Dom covered it earlier with knowing your rights. So like the Equality Act and like you said, joining a union. There's tons of, like I think there's like one of the big studios just opened up a union. I think CD Projekt Red, I think it's them. They've just opened up like their own workers union, so it's spreading now because, 900 jobs lost in the last couple of weeks, and for no reason really, just profiting.
And as well, like, you can come and talk to us. We'll have a link at the end to a bunch of resources, including our Discord server. Anyone is absolutely welcome to come and talk to any of us. If you come and ask us a question, you're going to have someone probably more qualified than me to give you an answer. So if you feel like you're being treated unfairly or things are just not right, even if things are good, no matter what, like, you are free to come and speak to us. Like, we are here, and that is what we are here for. So my final question is, what do you think the games industry can do to better support neurodivergent people? And just going off the thing you said about Ubisoft, I hope that that's a really, really good segue into opening that up to the rest of the studios in different countries. Like, I think in the UK at the moment, it's going quite well in terms of neurodiversity advocacy. So hopefully, even like one part of these studios doing something can open that up to a much, much wider range. So yeah, how can studios support us? Because we need to be supported.
I think just listening, like the last panel said, just listening to the people, like giving workplace surveys, feedback, just try and make it more inclusive. There's God knows how many different things that affect different people. So what's right for me might not be right for you. So it's yes.
And you know yourself better than anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think it's very hard when employers can say, well, you don't need this, but they don't understand you. They don't understand your needs. And if someone does say that to you, you go right back. Well, you, in a nice way, right back and say, hey, actually, like, these are the reasons I need this, and you need to be providing this as support and assistance for me. Because I think a lot of people, they're not educated, and I don't think there's a problem with that. But if they're open to being educated, then
definitely, like I said earlier, with Rockstar doing like the autism awareness, like more studios doing that sort of initiative would be great, because everyone is different. Like, people have, like, I have special interest, Dom has special interest, you probably have special interest as well. So yeah.
It's probably very good that one of my special interests is talking about neurodiversity, isn't it?
Yeah. Mine was airplane crashes a couple of months ago, so
I've moved on now. Well, I get really sweaty when I talk about like being neurodivergent, because I'm like so excited about talking about it. It's really weird. But I think that's how you know something's your special interest, when you're just, it's a lot. It's like, it's a lot, and it's sometimes too much.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, they go as well, like, you have one and then gone, have another one. Yeah. So workplace, like, surveys, I think, is like one of the main things that can be done, because, to hear, like, off the people that they need to represent better. So definitely, yeah.
For sure.
I would absolutely agree. I mean, I get passionate about these things because I want everyone here, including the big hall, to be happy. Obviously, very ambitious, but I think when you're passionate about supporting people and making them happy, it makes you want to push further. So I would say one thing is, like Georgie said at the start, talk to people that are advocating and tell them, because there was one, for example, there was one education program that a lot of people messaged me about that they felt was treating them unfair. And then I messaged the organizer of that program, and let's just say we got into a bit of a heated email conversation, and I was proud to, though, because it was like, this guy is basing his whole area on assumptions and stereotypes. So I was just like, just remember, mate, that's not right. Obviously, I said more than that, but I would have to read you my email thread to get you my exact wording. But, you know, go to those who are advocating, because at the same time, it's understandable that not everyone wants to. So look for the people who are advocating, and if they say in response to you, I'm comfortable talking about this louder, then that's a good move. If they say, oh, I don't feel comfortable with that, taking that further, that's okay too, because respecting people's boundaries is important. Equally, I definitely would agree with Cam, like union support. I've actually just joined the union myself. So definitely worth doing when you've got your first job in industry. And equally, there's two more points, and then I'll try and shush. So when it comes to talking about your reasonable adjustments, it's really hard, because if it's your first job, how are you meant to know your reasonable adjustments if you haven't done it yet? So if your employer isn't willing to be taking that journey with you and adapt to your needs, there's a problem. So that's why, if it's your first time, always make sure you have those that know you close be aware of the work situation. Not to obviously get involved, but to kind of go back to. So for example, if your boss is demanding too much of you and you feel it, and you're like, go to your friend or family member and explain the situation to them, and they're like, that sounds really out of order, you should follow up on that. Then you can take that back to your manager, and with their help, make it a much more neutral narrative about constructive feedback. And if your manager won't listen, you can take it up the chain and make them listen. But obviously, that's a bit of an assumption on my part to think that they'll be angry, because most managers, you'll find, will actually try to be inclusive. But if not, there's HR teams, there's leadership chains that can help. And then my last thing, which is kind of a 360, but one thing to support community, specifically neurodiverse, is more representation. Like, my gosh, I just want more games to honestly say, oh, this character's neurodiverse, oh, this character's got autism or ADHD, not, oh, it's the fan theory. Oh, it's like, confirm it, have these characters stand proud so that we can feel proud. There's, if you haven't seen it already today, there's a brilliant game called Billy Beat 'em Up, which is literally just on the opposite side. It's fantastic. It's a musical platformer, which is also why I love it. But what's really brilliant is that the developer team, they put traits of themselves into the characters, and through putting those traits of themselves, they started to learn that those characters are neurodiverse, and so they are neurodiverse. So it not only helped them bring about more representation in their game, but actually help them discover more about themselves. And I was talking to one of the devs earlier, and it was really humbling to hear that she has accepted who she is through the implementation of representation in our game. And I just think that's such a powerful message and is needed more and more. So both from a player perspective and a professional perspective, demand more neurodiverse representation.
Cool. Well, that is all my questions. I'm just going to pop to this slide. So this is a whole load of resources that our collective have compiled. There's a link tree. It's just linktree/the NGDC. We've got a QR code that I will leave up for a little bit. Yeah, all of this can be found. We've got a Twitter account, which is also the NGDC, where you can find our link tree, all of these. Playing attention for devs of ADHD. into games, which is not neurodiverse specific, but is there to help anyone looking to get into the industry. There's us, Limit Break, Safe in Our World are absolutely amazing. So you can find all of these and more on our link trees. So, and if anyone has any questions, I'll hang around for a little bit afterwards. I'm sure these guys will hang around for a little bit as well.
Can do, and just to highlight as well, I run an initiative called Raise the Game, and that's also there to help. And is also connected with most of these, including the panel that this is on. So if you need help connecting to these orgs, just look for this face and I'll help you as well. But equally, the LinkedIn QR, which hopefully the team will leave up until the next panel. And yeah.
Yeah, and if anyone needs any advice, support, like, again, you can find us in our Discord. You can find me on Twitter at Georgie Sucks. Like, just send me a DM. Like, absolutely. If anyone needs any advice or anything, like, we are here, and we are here to support you. So I don't want anyone feeling like they're on their own in this, because you're not. We might have been when we joined this industry and we started, but we're here to make sure that no one else is. So, yeah, that's all from us. Thank you very much.